Hi, I'm Doug, and this is Leah, and we are Go Travel Life, and we're here to tell you about the top 10 misconceptions about driving a motorhome for leisure.
And these are our misconceptions. We were actually on a couple 100-mile drive yesterday, and we just started thinking about all the things that we thought before we bought our first motorhome 10 years ago that are blatantly wrong. So
Yeah,
we thought
we've learned a few things and changed our mind on quite a few things.
yeah. So we're going to share the list. I will put a list up at the end too, so that you can have them. But we just wanted to talk through them. And I think the first one is that we thought if we had a motorhome that during drive time we would be like up and roaming around. Like I thought, I'll sit at the table,
Stretching,
make something to eat. And the reality is, when we're driving, it's kind of precarious. It's windy, things are moving around. I mean, even if I get up to like get a can of water or something, it's like you quickly go, you get it.
you hang on to something while you're walking to the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Or going to the bathroom. You can do that, but it is a little bit precarious.
We are not up and around and moving around as much as we thought.
Yeah, so that was a little bit different.
Yeah.
And the second one was about the expense. We thought this was going to be a really inexpensive way to travel. And, it is less expensive than staying in the hotels, but it's still not as inexpensive as it can be.
Yeah, I think that kind of depends on the kind of campgrounds that you're staying at as well. I mean, you can make it more affordable, but if you happen to want a level padded, concrete site or something, it's just you're going to end up paying more. And there's always repairs and things that need to be done, and that really add to the expense. I know people have done extensive videos on it, but it is a misconception that we had, that it would be a pretty inexpensive way to travel, and it's kind of not. So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The third one, and people talk about this all the time, that Walmart, perfect place to stop. We do, like we were using them as kind of our halfway point. And I was under the misconception that they would always be available. Like we could always pull into a Walmart, have lunch, run in, get whatever supplies we need. And on this trip in particular, we have discovered that there are Walmarts who have bars hanging down to limit access.
Every exit and entrance into the parking lot, there's a bar that they've built that's 11 feet 6 inches high, and our rig with the antenna is 11 feet 6 inches high. So
we're not going under that.
Yeah, so we've okay, we won't go to this Walmart because it's...
So we have to find, a rest area or, a pilot or something like that to stop. So that's been kind of a misconception that's exposed itself on this one.
Yeah, so and we also thought that we wouldn't need a lot of stuff. Our rig, our rig has a cargo carrying capacity of approximately 1,000 pounds. And that includes any fresh water, any other water in any of the tanks. It includes us. And so we thought, well, we're never going to touch anywhere close to 1,000 pounds of stuff. But as it turned out, we're probably right at about 1,000 pounds when we're in here. And we have a full tank of fresh water. I'm pretty sure we're probably pretty close to being over 1,000 pounds.
And I think the other thing is, there's always some little thing, pieces, part, whatever, whether it's you're velcroing something back up, I don't know, there's just always seems to be all these little pieces, parts that you end up having to buy. And oh gee, if this goes bad while we're driving, I need a spare of that. Batteries galore for all the tire minders and stuff like that. So it's just like I don't know, we've got an awful big collection of stuff that we didn't really realize.
Yeah,
hey, you're gonna need that at some point.
And we don't usually ever get rid of it either, so we've always
unless we upgrade a model or something, then we'll try to look for the old parts and throw them away. I think the next one, we thought we would eat out a lot more, while you're on the road. During a drive day, especially when you're towing the car, that can be tough because you don't know where you're going to be able to go, where you can, get into the parking lot, who's got room for you and all that. So And then when you get settled at night, if you're staying someplace for a few days, maybe you'll go out and explore. If you're not, then you don't feel like disconnecting the car. You don't want to go anywhere. So I think we end up cooking a lot more, which means a lot more planning, pre-planning as far as when we leave, but also keeping on top of stuff. That you have always got food in here. So that was also a misconception that we had. So.
And we thought we would be camping a lot more than driving. And I think in our first few years when we lived in Georgia and we were still working, we would go for a long weekend down to the Florida Panhandle, or we would go up to get cooler in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Those things, that's what we did. We drove to one location and stayed for a few days. But now we're traveling to go, like this trip, we're on right now. We have visited a lot of family, and then we've had to be certain places at certain times. So it's been a lot of driving, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's just different than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah. We thought if we bought a newer rig, so a little history, we bought our first rig in 2015, and then we upgraded it it's actually right at the beginning of the pandemic. We upgraded it because the newer model had some safety features, and it had the Murphy bed and had things that really changed the layout for us. And once we didn't have our youngest daughter really camping with us all the time, this newer model made sense. But we thought, well, okay, if we get a newer model, then we wouldn't have as many recalls and all that. And I'm here to say, oh my gosh, like it's everything's fine. It's just there's just constant recalls, like different minor things that maybe it's software updates that have to be done. There's a couple that have been bigger things.
And you get recalls from both the Mercedes end and from the Winnebago end. So yeah, there's been a lot of them, and some of them, like the awning recall we have right now, we still haven't gotten fixed because nobody knows for sure if the recall actually fixes the problem.
So we're waiting.
And the problem is that the awning deploys while you're driving down the road.
In some cases,
could be bad.
Yeah, could be very bad. So,
so the next one was we thought that we wouldn't need a car. We wouldn't need a tow car.
Because we bought a Class C.
Yeah, because we bought a Class C. It's small enough, we'll be in and out. Well, when you're at a campground and you want to go somewhere, if you're going to drive the rig, you need to pack up and disconnect all the hoses, and it can be time consuming and kind of a pain. And at first we just, like I said, we went to either somewhere within a 5-hour drive, and we just
walkable. We tended to choose parks that we could walk places, like beautiful resort on Pensacola Beach. Literally the public beach is across the street. The park is on the beach. You could walk to 20 restaurants if you wanted to. I mean, that we just chose differently when we didn't take the car.
Yeah, but now we realize that on these longer trips, having a car is well worth it. I know it's kind of a pain to have to disconnect and connect, but
we also tried renting cars. We did that a couple times, and that ended up being kind of a pain because you would get there, and if you hadn't done extensive research on like the lot, can I get in there? It was just a hassle. We tried Enterprise, where they would bring it to you, and that was always dicey. So in the end, especially when you're going to be gone 3 months. Again, it was a misconception that we didn't need a car.
Yeah.
We need a car.
You do need it. We think we need a car.
Number 9, we felt like we'd just be driving a big van. That driving would be easy. And I would tell you, on a nice day when you're not climbing a mountain and it's not storming and it's not windy, perfect conditions, it isn't bad driving. And the more you drive, it's kind of fun.
It is. Yeah. We have a good time driving on
a nice day
when the weather is perfect.
Yeah, but how many times does that happen?
Yeah.
Last night, the place we left the night before apparently was flooding. So it's like it can be fun, but there are some days when you need to get someplace, or we end up having to re-swizzle all of our plans because we're just not going to drive that day. Yeah. So that was a big misconception that we had. And
the last one was routine isn't possible. We thought it was going to be something new every day, but it turns out that's not the case. We do keep a pretty good routine. We have our routines at home. We like our routines.
Maybe we're just old.
Yeah,
that's possible.
But yeah, we do. We go to the gym. We do a lot of the same things that we do at home. Mm-hmm. We just do them here.
Yeah. So hopefully that was helpful. If you're looking at the differences between a motorhome or a towable or whatever, these are things that over time, again, applicable to us, but could be helpful to you. So
So thanks for listening.
if any questions, please feel free to put in the comments. We're happy to answer.